Welcome back to another episode of the Breadwinner Energy Podcast. Before we get into today's interview with Moriah, I'm so excited to interview her because she is talking all things branding, luxury clients, high ticket prices, and that's my jam, of course. But I want to tell you guys that I am hosting a free workshop. It is 3 days long, November 11th through the 13th. And it is get clients now without social media, without ads. And I'm going to be teaching you my 3-part framework for building a business and putting in systems that bring in at least 100 leads organically every single month without social media, plus how to convert those clients. So the link is below. Get your spot. We have limited spots. And in the first 48 hours, we had people signing up like crazy. So you're going to want to get in there because this 3-day free workshop is going to be jam-packed with information. Plus, when you join, you get immediate access into the Telegram group chat where I'm dropping gems between now and the workshop dates. However, you cannot get access to the replay unless you upgrade to VIP. So make sure you're either going to attend live or you upgrade to VIP for $47. As a VIP member, you not only get the replays on demand forever, but you also get my download, which is 100 organic leads every single month. And I broke it down in a full worksheet for you. And you get a bonus Q&A call with me the Thursday after the workshop. So grab your spot right now, completely free, or upgrade if you would like access to the bonus call. Into today's episode where I'm interviewing Moriah. I am so excited for this interview because we're talking all things luxury branding, high-end services, and actually building a business. Moriah is an award-winning luxury brand designer, strategist, and coach, and she just got certified through LCS. Women create a luxury brand. I am so excited to have her on today's episode. She's going to be sharing all of her tips for branding, luxury branding, positioning yourself, building a brand in general, what constitutes for a luxury brand and what doesn't, as well as she's going to share her mini course and her podcast. So let's get into today's episode. All right, I am here today with Moriah. Hello, welcome in. Tell everybody here who you are, what you do, how you started. Tell us about your whole life.
Oh, goodness. Yay. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. So we were chatting right before we hit record. We've been trying to do this for a year.
Yes.
So I'm so excited to finally chat with you. I am now a certified life coach, but I have been a luxury brand designer and strategist for over 10 years. And I started specializing in working with coaches and consultants. And so when I got my first coaching client, I didn't even know like what she was like, I'm a life coach. And I was like, I don't know what that means. Like I worked with her for a year and didn't know what she did. And I was like, this is cool, but I don't know what this is. And then I just started seeing life coaching everywhere. So I joined Self-Coaching Scholars way back in the day. And just become obsessed. And I started learning so much about life coaching. I realized I was really helping my clients build their brands. And so, yeah, back in April, I got coach certified myself. And so I'm a certified life coach and a luxury brand designer.
I love it. And I cannot wait for this conversation because I am a luxury queen. I love luxury. I love all the pretty things. And I also love positioning yourself as a high-end coach and being able to charge premium prices. So I think that this aligns so well with everything. And I honestly think even though it took us a year to get here, the timing could not have been better for both of us.
I
Yeah,
agree. I feel like it was meant to be, right? Like,
totally.
because when we first reached out, I was not a certified coach. Like, so much has happened. So this is fabulous. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And I went through, as everyone who's been listening knows, I went through a huge legal case this year. I attempted to sue for the first time ever, which is not something that I hope to ever do again. But I think that through all of this, I've learned a lot of lessons. I'm now in a new position. You're certified, and the timing is immaculate. I'm excited.
I love it.
Okay, so tell us, why did you start your own business? You were working with Fortune 500 companies, is that right?
Yeah. So I've been an entrepreneur, I think, my whole life. Like I was the little girl with the lemonade stand in college. My best friend and I started a jewelry business. I've just always like been entrepreneurial. And I was in hair school. I was getting my cosmetology license and
Okay.
decided I was going to be a wedding photographer at the same time, and because I had a camera. And I didn't know what I was doing. I barely knew how to use my camera, but like I started booking weddings and it was fabulous and I loved it. But what's funny is I just, there's this great community of photographers and I had all these friends and I was talking to them and it's like they just wanted to go and shoot and like not worry about business. And I was the exact opposite. I was like the building the business
Mm,
and
yeah.
like making a brand and building a website. This is so cool. Like shooting a wedding's fun, but like I love building the business side of things. And like I didn't know at the time what branding was. But I quickly learned like I love branding. And so after several like really awful DIY logos and websites, I decided to go back. I had never finished my college degree. And so I decided to go back and do graphic design, which talk about like, I just really feel like the universe like has us on this path and there is divine timing and everything happens in its right time because when I was in college the first time, I didn't know what graphic design was. Like I wouldn't have been able to tell you like what a graphic designer does. So I had to have all these life experiences to be like, I want to be a graphic designer. I want to be a website designer. So I did. I went back to school and I had been a dance major the first time around. So I had to really catch up. I had to do all these gen eds and everything, but like I was 26 at the time. I had just gone through a divorce. I had been married and, living on my own. And I'm with all these like 18-year-olds who had done art all through high school. And I had never taken an art class. And so like they were way more advanced than me, but like I was so much older. I was 26. And but like I had paid my own bills, I had run a business. I was serious about like getting through school and I thought the salary job was the dream job, right? So I was like,
Wow.
I'm gonna be a graphic designer so that I can do something creative but have a salary. I just thought that was the dream. So that's what I did. And I got a job right out of college. And I worked at a marketing agency and I was the only female in the office.
Wow.
And we worked with Fortune 500 companies. It was all health tech industry and finance tech industry. Very masculine. I loved my coworkers, but if you know me at all, I'm like super girly. Pink is my favorite color. I love graphic design because I love just making it super feminine and just like really like luxury and bespoke. And that's not what I was doing there. So
Yeah.
after about a year and a half, my husband now, he was my fiance at the time. He is in the military and he was going to be stationed in another state. And so I was going with him. So I decided instead of getting a new job in this place we were going to be for like 8 months,
Yeah.
I decided that I was going to try to go back to doing my own business full time. So I had kept doing the wedding photography. And then I also started doing branding for female entrepreneurs, which was amazing. I quickly learned that I needed to take my own advice because I had two very distinct ideal clients and I wasn't getting either. Right?
Yeah.
Like talking to two different audiences, trying to make it work, and it wasn't working. So,
Yeah.
actually, my first experience with a coach, I hired a wedding photography coach who was going to help me get the weddings going again because it had really slowed down. And
Yeah.
I got on a call with him, and the first thing he said to me, he was like, "Why are you still shooting weddings?" And I was like, "What? You're like supposed to help me build my wedding business."
Yeah.
And he was like, "You know more about branding than I do." He was like, "I don't know why you're still shooting weddings." So it was like, that was my first coach experience where like they tell you what you already know. They just have to like drag it out of you, right?
Yeah.
Like I knew I had moved on, but I wasn't ready to let go. But I got this like big industry wedding photographer telling me like, "Hey, it's time to move on." And like it was a month later, I relaunched. I had this big rebrand. I was luxury branding, branding only for female entrepreneurs. I got booked out, like business took off because I got so crystal clear, right? I wasn't
Yeah.
trying to make these two things work.
Yeah.
So, anyway, I spent about 2 years branding all of my fellow female wedding photographers. I was the go to person, and it was
Yep.
fabulous. And then I got my first life coach. client just randomly. She found me on Google or something, and I fell in love with life coaching. So
Yeah.
I have grown my business to be a life coach branding expert.
Oh my God. I'm dying. I took so many notes while you're talking because the parallels between our lives is so scary. So, okay, you were a dance major. I danced
Yes.
for my whole life, and then I danced for college and arena football. And then you said you went to hair school. I wanted to
Yes.
go to hair school. I didn't. My parents were like, that is not a real career. You're not going to hair school. And so they pushed me to go to college. But hair
Okay.
school was like my dream. Go
Oh,
to college. I also drop out. And then I started my business in the wedding professional industry
oh my
as a
God.
VA, an OBM, an agency owner for wedding professionals because two, I loved business and wedding professionals did not love business.
They don't love it. No.
No. So my agency, I retired it last year officially, and I worked with wedding professionals the entire time. I'm also divorced, and I was divorced, previously married to somebody in the military.
Oh my God.
So the parallels between our life
This
is
is crazy.
insane. I was like, this is scary. Oh, no, and better than that is when I started coaching, my first ever course that I ever launched was called Brand Yourself Bootcamp because I also love branding.
Oh my God, that's amazing. That is so cool.
I have so many clients that are now my coaching clients that have been with me for years that came through the Brand Yourself Bootcamp. And
Mm,
while I don't teach branding now,
mhm.
I am a very huge advocate for building your own personal brand. And that as a coach, like more than a business, you have a brand. Like your brand is front facing and your
Yes.
business is behind you. And if you cannot master those two pieces, being a coach will then just be like a really expensive hobby.
Oh, exactly. I mean, it's so like your brand is everything. Like
Yeah.
I'm at the phase in my journey where I want to embrace entrepreneurship and like I've spent the last 10, 15 years building this business, but now I'm like I want to build businesses, plural. And like my brand is everything. The fact that I have a brand, it's not just the business. Like I can have multiple businesses with this brand. So like really start with your brand. Like to me,
Yes.
that's the most important part.
I couldn't agree more. And that was actually the legal battle that I went through this year was to protect my brand, my trademark, which is Breadwinner Energy. And for me, it's not even Breadwinner Energy is so much bigger and it's going to grow into something so much bigger than just being a coach. You're building a whole legacy for yourself. Like as a woman, you are building a financial legacy for you, for your children, for years to come. And it's not just being a coach or even just like the small nuance of like having a business. It's how that is pivotal to everything else you do, right? It's how you learn finances, it's how you make decisions and how you get to be a decision maker and have choices because of the money that you make. And so, yeah, your brand is literally everything. It lays the groundwork for everything you do.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, like, let's take, for example, like Disney, right? And I think of them as a luxury brand. I'm a little bit of a Disney adult, like closeted Disney adult. Um, But, like, I love Disney, I think everything they do is just, like, next level, and it's like, if you think of it as a business, it's like, what is Disney? Well, it's like movies for children, right? But, like, the Disney brand is so much more than that, right? We have, like, animation, we have the Disney Channel, we've got Disney Plus. Well, then we've got the Disney parks, and we've got the Disney store, and we've got the Disney cruises, and, like, Disney is a lifestyle because it's a brand first, right? So like that is the power of your brand.
I love this. I want to know, what do you think defines a luxury brand versus a non-luxury brand?
I love this question because people come to me all the time because I'm known as a luxury brand designer now. And
Mhm.
they have all of these preconceived notions and assumptions about what a luxury brand is. And I love to just like be like, no, it's none of that. Right? Like, they think that like a luxury brand is champagne and crystals and like just over the top. And like when I see, so the biggest oxymoron I ever see is a DIY luxury brand. Okay. It's just not going to happen. You
Yeah.
can't DIY a luxury brand. But when I see people trying to DIY a luxury brand, it's so over the top. It's so loud. It's in your face. It's screaming for your attention. And if you look at actual luxury brands, they're very understated. They're not screaming for your attention. It's like if you go back to coaching, it's the thought we have about ourselves, right? And that's why I love luxury branding. It's like they know they're awesome. Come and buy from them if you want to, if you can afford it, right? And it's like if we can all show up that way in our businesses, oh my gosh, that's life changing, right?
I love this. And I love this so much because whenever I'm coaching sales, what I like to say is you can decide if you're a kiosk in the mall
Mhm.
or if you're Chanel. And
Yes.
Chanel does not invite you into their store, but they do give quality service when you enter the door. And a
Mhm.
kiosk worker will chase you around the whole mall
Yes, it's so true.
to get your bottom of the barrel sale.
Yeah.
And then the quality of product is completely different. The quality of service is completely different. The experience is different. So do you want to give somebody an experience when they enter your world, or do you want to chase them? And so I think that for you, like for this conversation, right, there's the difference between your visual brand, what it looks
Mhm.
like, and then the experience of your brand.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so what I'm curious about is when you say a DIY brand,
Mhm.
what what does that look like? Like, what to you is like, wow, this is really DIY?
Yeah, it's well, as a designer, you can just see it, right? It's like I can see when I know if it's been well designed or not, right? And like again, it's a lot of the over the topness
Okay.
that you don't actually need. Really high end brands, less is more. And there's a really great quote, and I'm not going to be able to attribute it to the right person, but basically the idea is great design is invisible. It's so good you don't even notice it, right? And think about things that we like think about walking into a Louis Vuitton store or a Chanel store or something. You as a consumer are not breaking down the design, but somebody has been paid a lot of money to design it immaculately, but you're just having this experience because it's so well designed. And one like if I can give you one piece of advice from a designer, trying to make, if you're trying to make a luxury brand, white space. You want lots of white space, lots of breathing room.
Mhm.
When I see people try to DIY their own brands, there's a lot of clutter. They're trying, it's again, it's this idea of like visually like shouting at people. It's like, get my attention, look at me. And if we look at luxury brands, it's very, like I said, understated. There's a lot of breathing room. It feels calming almost, right? Like visually, it feels calming.
Okay. So then I'm gonna ask you more of like, this question probably benefits me. I mean, it will benefit other people.
I
It's
love
gonna
it.
benefit me more than anyone right now. Is what if you want your brand to be luxury, but you also want it to be loud? And the reason I say this is because with my brand specifically, I went from pink to red, and
Mhm.
it was very well thought out. It was that I want to help women be fierce. I want you to stand firm in your power. I want you to be bold. I want you to make big decisions. I want you to go after your dreams. But I also want you to stop being quiet. I want you to stop hiding in the shadows of other people or other people's success or behind men. And I want you to be able to be loud with the way that you think and feel. And I want you to run your business from a place of power and authority, which is why we chose red and black, because those colors, right, are defining of that. And
Mhm.
while I do not consider myself technically a luxury brand,
Mhm.
also want there to be this level of my brand is for women, not girls. My brand is for women who want to be a CEO. You want to be a power player. You want to make a lot of money. You don't want to be a side hustler. You don't want to be a hobbyist. You don't want to pretend that you're a business owner and like be flashy online, but like in real life, you don't actually have a business. You want to learn how to run a business. So for me, it's like I do want to incorporate that in, but I would not consider anything I do to be quiet ever.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. And like there's so much nuance to this, right? And so when I say quiet, I mean like let's step back. I think there's a difference between what I would say what you're doing is like bold. It's bold, right? But it's not crowded. It's not busy. It's not overdone,
Yeah.
right? So it could be your definition of loud, but it's not like pieced together DIY, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think luxury brands can totally be loud. It's just still done in an elevated way. So I
Yeah.
mean, going back to like Louis Vuitton, like they have some really bold prints and designs that I would say are
Yeah.
loud. But like they're still very luxury, right?
Yeah. This makes sense. Yeah, because I do think there's a difference between, I mean, you can clearly see a DIY photo shoot from like a mile away, right? Like that's
Right.
very much obvious. But I think it's more of like, are these pieces well thought out from
Exactly.
the color to the visuals to the things you're saying to the vibe, right? Like the words, the energy. Does it all kind of flow, or are you still finding yourself? Like that's kind of how I think about it. And you can
Right.
see when someone's still trying to find themselves visually or
Oh, definitely.
their confidence or their images. You can see it between their clothes and their pictures and their colors and the messaging, right? It's very clear. But I think this is going to help so many of my people who are creating a brand, because we do talk about needing a personal brand, which is, are you actually thinking out these pieces from a business perspective, from a marketing perspective, or are you like, I like this color, sounds good,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, exactly. And that is like pure DIY. Like that's what you see, right? You see these trends that come and go.
Yeah.
And that's when a lot of clients come to me too. You know, I remember there was a big, there was a whole slew of clients that came to me a few years ago that all had rose gold script logos and they are ready to have something more bespoke, you know, and it was like you could
Me
just
when I started.
yeah, but you could just see like that was the trend and everybody went
Yep.
on Etsy and got like a template logo. And the problem is there's no strategy behind that, right? You're just picking something that's trendy. So it's not you know, I have we work with clients now and we only offer one program and it's all inclusive because I'm not going to just design a logo. I can make you a gorgeous logo, but like it's not going to get you your dream client. I can design you a gorgeous website. How are the clients going to get there? How, like, is it the right client? Is it speaking to the right client? Like everybody wants the pretty. And yes, I can make it really pretty, but like we do a ton of strategy leading up to it because it needs to be telling your story and connecting with the right person.
Yes.
Without those two things, I mean, we can do pretty all day, but like it's not going to get you anywhere.
Yeah. I hired my first ever web designer this year. I've been in business full time for 8 years.
Oh,
The
wow.
reason being was because I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready up until this point. I wasn't, and there was times I thought I was ready, but I wasn't very clear in like, this is the mission of my brand, right?
Got
So
it.
I completely agree. Like you have to have all these other pieces in place. But I also think it's funny that you said that about logos, because I have said this to people forever, is nobody is hiring you or not hiring you because of a logo. They
Yeah.
aren't. Because of your
Oh,
business name, your website. Most people don't even see my website and they know that they want to work with me through some other kind of funnel, right?
right.
But at the exact same time, my brand, wherever you find me online, it's the same, right? Like you get that
Right.
of me. So I agree. It can't be trendy. It has to be very much based around either the brand you've built, personal brand or business brand, like who
Mhm.
you are and what you stand for. And I think a lot of people get lost in like what looks good and what everyone else is doing. I made that mistake a long time ago.
Yeah. And it's funny because like when you first start your business, it's like the concept of having a logo that's your name. Like
Yeah.
you get anything and you're like, wow, it's so cool, right? But then you're in business for a while and you're competing against other people and you're like, it really speaks to like what you were saying, like your brand is so much more than your logo,
Yeah.
right? It's like so much, it's a whole cohesive system.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and when we were designing my site, that was a big piece, is like, who am I and what is the change I want to bring to the world? And then also, what are the services or products that I offer on the side? Not
Mhm.
on the side, meaning like that's not my bread and butter. However, people don't buy, if you're a coach, people are not buying your programs because of your program. They are, but not first. They will
Yeah,
buy your program for your program once they've built know, like, trust, authority with you as the brand, as the connection. If there's not connection and there's not value, your
mhm,
program is just another program on the shelf with 1,000 other bajillion million other coaches out there, right? So
right.
it's, how do you articulate that connection and value piece to your story and your life and who you are your personality, and then you create a really great product. That's how I see it. Do you see it that way too?
Totally. Yeah. And that's why I really feel like the strategy is so important because like you have to know like your niche and you have to know your ideal client. Like if you're making products or like offers or programs and you don't know who your ideal client is, like how are you selling this? Like you have to
Exactly.
know who the ideal client is so that you know their pain point so that you can create the solution to that pain point to sell it. Right?
Hello. Yes.
Yeah. Like if you're just making stuff willy-nilly and wondering why it's not selling, that's why.
And two, I teach this consistently, but it's like you have to know your niche, but you have to know your micro niche. You can't just say like, oh, I help creatives or entrepreneurs or moms. I'm like, that's not specific enough. Like
Yeah.
I help this like a toddler mom do X, Y, and Z to get X, Y, and Z result. And if you cannot clearly articulate that, which builds the rest of your business, then you will get overlooked, especially now. And what we've seen in the last year is that the coaches who are general coaches are getting easily overlooked because there's other coaches out here that are way more specific to them.
Yeah. No, it's so true. So I work with almost exclusively coaches and I tell my clients all the time, like they want to sell coaching, right? And I'm like, nobody wants to buy coaching. You know who buys coaching is other coaches because we know the value of coaching, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Other people don't even know that coaching exists. They don't know they need coaching. You cannot sell coaching. Nobody wants to buy coaching. People want to buy transformations and they want to buy results.
Yep.
So if you can articulate the transformation and the result you provide, that is what you sell and you will be sold out.
100%. And I think too, this easily ties back into your brand because when I think of someone's brand, I think about, again, the connection and the value, but also the emotion that you get from that person's brand to dig deeper. And then you dig deeper and like, oh, this is me. Oh, I resonate. And then it just continues to build. And I find this really funny because when I redid our entire brand this year, we went through a rebrand.
Mhm.
My financial advisor, who's a male, who is not at all in this industry, who knows nothing about the industry other than just
Mhm.
working with me, when he called me to ask me about the rebrand, he was like, it looks great. And if you're going for very fierce and bold and people are afraid of you, you have nailed it. And I was like, for a male outside of this industry to know exactly what my brand stands for, I've hit the nail on the head. Right? Right?
Yeah.
It's that emotion that it evokes, right?
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
that when you invoke that emotion within someone and then they're like, okay, I want to know more about this person and they know your
Yeah.
story, what you stand for, that's what people buy from you, right?
Right. Right. And like, I love what you just said because it really speaks to the power of branding and why I fell in love with branding so long ago. It's like we can just yell into the void till
Yeah.
we're like red in the face, like what we do and why it matters, but nobody's going to listen.
Mhm.
If you have a really great branding, it does the heavy lifting for you, where subconsciously they've already arrived at that conclusion because of the way the brand is built, right? Just like
Yep.
your financial advisor did.
Mhm.
Like when I rebranded a couple of years ago, I had a bunch of people come to me, like old clients too, and I didn't even have my prices on my website, and they're like, "I'm so glad I booked you way back then because I know I couldn't afford you now." Like I was already expressing my value and how much I cost, and the price wasn't even on there, right?
Exactly. 100%. And I think that also sets up your audience to know what to expect when they arrive and to
Yes.
act in accordance, which I find really interesting is when you are, there was a season I went in through my business where I was a little bit shaky. I was a little bit not as bold and fierce. I was going through a transition period of like divorce and like finding my voice again and finding myself. And you will attract clients that will walk all over you. But then when I stand firm in being this bold and fierce, people
Mhm.
don't even try it. People don't really even pitch me in the DMs. It's like very rare because it's that immediately, it's that energy that you're like, I
Yeah.
know to go there with her.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're
It's
all
actually
in.
funny because along those same lines, about a year ago, I met up with another graphic designer in my area who's a really big website designer. And I had just wanted to network with her. And I was like, let's get coffee. And we had just followed each other on Instagram for several years. And I was finally like, hey, let's meet up. And at the end of our coffee date, she was like, "Oh my gosh, you're so nice. I was really nervous to meet you because I was really intimidated by you." And I was
I
like,
do this all the time. People are like, I thought you were going to be a bitch.
"Oh." Which, like, I'm not mad about that, but, like,
Exactly.
I love that, like, my brand is doing that work for me. So that it like, it's almost, we talk about passive income all the time.
Yeah.
It's passive brand building, right? You do the
Yes.
hard work, and it's like, it's telling that story for me out in the world, everywhere I am, and, like, I'm at home in my pajamas, like, hanging with my kids, right? I'm not looking that
Exactly.
fabulous.
Exactly. And that's why I love it too. Then sometimes I'm like, I go online and like on Instagram and I have no hair, no makeup, I'm in pajamas, and they're probably like, this is not in alignment with your brand,
Yeah,
Missy. And I'm like, it is
that's
what
what a
it is.
filter's for.
Exactly. Okay, I have a couple more questions for you before we wrap up today. So I am curious, if someone wants to transition, let's say from bargain clients, they want to go premium, they want to go luxury, they want to go high ticket. What do you think is going to be like the biggest challenges for them to move into that realm?
Mindset.
I
And
knew that
that's
was
why
coming.
I got into coaching.
Yeah.
But that's why I see such a synergy between my old life and my new life as a coach, like the branding and the coaching, because I feel like I watch my clients. So we do everything. It's all inclusive. We do it in 90 days. We take you from zero to launch in 90 days.
Wow, amazing.
Yeah, and like everything. It's like logo, website, funnel, all the things. And you see this transformation of like the client catching up mindset wise, and
Mhm.
we go through all of these, like we do the logo reveal, we do the website reveal, we do their brand photos, right? And so it's all of these like actual in life sort of transformations, and because they're all personal brands, so they're seeing their name becoming this elevated thing, right? And they're showing up to match it, and then we're bringing the design to match where their dream is, but they're not there yet mentally. And so by the time we take them from where we started to launching, yes, you have this amazing brand, and like, physically in the, what I want to say in the real world, but it's in the digital world. You have this like representation of your best self, but then
Yeah.
you see them become that best self, because it's like we do the mindset work with them, and at the same time they're seeing it actually happening. It's like so magical.
Yeah. I love that you said this. And I tell this all the time. I think I even talked about it like 2 episodes ago on the podcast, was if you walked into a Mercedes dealership to buy a Mercedes vehicle and there was a brand new vehicle on the lot that retails for 100K and they were selling it for $20,000, you would assume the car is damaged. You would assume there is a problem. The car is crap, right?
Yeah,
That's not a discount. That is like scary, red flag. Same
yeah.
for brand. Like, let's say you do put the pieces in place, right? The visuals, and it looks luxury and put together, and they land on your page, and your coaching is $1,000.
Hmm.
They're going to assume like this does not match,
Exactly.
right? So it's like, how do you get yourself there? So I actually went through this year where I was like redefining myself after this rebrand, which is like, I don't want to say an adult. That's not the way that I mean it, but it felt like from 20s to my 30s that I'm like becoming way more mature in my business
Yeah,
and in my brand. And I also, now that I have the visuals, have to match that energy with, my personal brand, the way that I talk about my offer,
yeah.
about my business, the way that I show up, the way that I have offers, right? And so when I told my team, I'm like, I don't think we're going to have an offer under 5K unless it's like something we pop up for community building, but an actual coaching container is going to be 5 to 15 grand. But that
Mhm.
also feels very in alignment with my brand, right? So I think for everyone listening, it's like, if you want to go luxury, or you even want to look luxury, or you want to go higher prices, or you want to elevate yourself, you have to make sure that those pieces are matching. But I do
Yes.
know that it takes that. There's this switch in your mind that's like, you decide to stop playing small and
Yeah.
you decide to go high ticket, you decide to go luxury. And I think
Yeah.
you enter this like new level of business.
No, it's so true. It is the mindset and then the manifestation in the real world. And I love being a part of that manifestation.
Yeah.
And it's like, I have people who tell me all the time, I can't wait till I can hire you. I can't wait to afford to hire you because we're not cheap. And I'm
Same.
like, oh, you're never going to work with me. Cause
Yeah.
you gotta invest first, right? It's that like, oh, one day. And it's like, you're never gonna get there. Those people are
Yeah.
never gonna get there.
Yeah.
I'm booked out, but these clients are like, take my money, let's do this now. And like, it's a 5-figure offer. It's such a mindset thing, right? Because if it's important to us, we will make it happen.
Yes.
And my clients, they book and it's like, take my money, let's make this happen, right? Because
Yeah.
they see it as an investment. And I know, like I said, the women that I want to shake them and be like, we need to, but you don't want to be like that heavy handed with your sales.
Exactly.
I'm just like, I can already see it for you. I don't know that you'll ever get there.
Yeah, 100%. I preach this consistently because the year that I hit my first ever 6 figures, I invested $30,000 into coaching and I wasn't even making 5K months, right? And now our team averages like 70, 80, $90,000 in training and coaching and team and whatever. And sometimes it's even more, but that's the point because that is where you get to hold the vision of where you're going and not where you're at. And if you cannot put yourself in where you're going and make decisions for where you're going and you keep making decisions for where you're at, that's where you're going to stay.
Yeah.
And I talked about, my last episode, I talked about our planning our 500K cash year. We actually are planning for 1.1 million because we know that if we plan for 1.1 million and we make decisions for 1.1 million, we aren't maybe going to hit it the first year or two, but we're also, if we want to cross 500K cash minimum, we know we're not going to plan for 500K cash, right? Like we're going to make choices and decisions well beyond what we want to do. So if you're listening and you want to charge premium prices, you want to be a 6-7 figure coach, you're not going to get there from saying like, once it happens, then I will make better decisions. Like it's the worst business mindset you could ever have.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, it's like, I feel like the universe is like, okay, you have this dream.
Yep.
You need to show up for it first.
Yep.
And then it happens, right? And like it's this idea of like a scarcity mentality versus an abundance mentality. And I feel like the people that DIY everything and it's like, oh, but I can do it myself. Oh, but I'll just do this myself, right? That is very much a scarcity mentality
Yeah.
because you're not valuing your time.
Yeah.
And luxury, building a luxury brand is an abundance mentality. It's claiming that for yourself.
Oh, 100%. And I was that person. I was that DIYer for 5 years. I didn't invest. I barely invested. I didn't get a coach. And 5 years in, 40 to 60 hour weeks, barely making 5K months as a single mom, I was like, this is not working anymore. And then when I immediately decided I'm going to change the way that I show up to my life and my business, I'm going to invest in myself, crossed 6 figures the next year and went to multi 6 figures every year after. And it was like, that is where you're at. Like that is the ticking point of like what we talked about before we hit record was both of us is like 7-figure years. Like we are not going to get there from 6-figure, 5-figure decisions that we made in our business. It's a completely different ballgame.
Yeah, it's a different mindset. You
Yeah.
have to show up as that person. It's so funny. I was just thinking because like, obviously I started as a DIYer too. That's how I got into graphic design,
Yeah.
right? But like, the more and more I grow as an entrepreneur, I just learned to outsource anything that is not absolutely my area of expertise,
Yep.
because there are people that can do it so much better than me. And then
Yes.
I get my time back to focus on my zone of genius.
Yep.
But it's this mindset. And sometimes it's like, I find myself too, like still stuck in that scarcity mindset sometimes. And I have to tell you, it's so funny. You talk about divine timing on this podcast, Breadwinner Energy. I have been making so much money in my business this last year. And I finally, 2 weeks ago, told my husband, or maybe it was last week, I was like, I'm giving myself a raise. And I gave myself a 3 times raise. And now I am the breadwinner in our household.
I love it. Oh my God, I'm so proud of you. That's amazing.
Yeah, so it's like it was meant to be for this, for us to wait to do this episode.
Amazing. So you manifested your way to not only the Breadwinner Energy podcast, but like physically being the breadwinner.
I
And
know, right? Isn't that funny?
so good. I freaking love it. Okay, couple more questions. So let's say if you could teach one thing, if you could only teach one thing for women who want to have a luxury brand or be a high-end coach or be the go-to coach, what is the one piece of advice you would tell her?
Ooh, okay. Let me think about this for a second.
Okay.
I think you really have to, okay, you really have to believe it yourself first. I think a lot of us want to be this like next level person, and we want to be the luxury brand, we want to be the best coach, but we don't believe it ourselves. And so if I can tell a quick story about
Yeah.
this. So I did hair before, in a previous life. And I went to a Paul Mitchell affiliated school, and then I did an apprenticeship at a Paul Mitchell salon for a short period of time. But they just like ingrain in you like Paul Mitchell, Paul Mitchell, Paul Mitchell. So
Yep.
I became obsessed with the Paul Mitchell brand. After that, I went and worked at various salons, and a big part of hair is actually selling product.
Yeah.
And I was like, I used to win awards because I was a top seller, but just for Paul Mitchell, because I believed in it so much. I was never selling it. I was just always talking to my clients like, this does this, and can you believe this? And oh my God, let's play with this. And I love it. And like people would just buy it because I believed in it so much. I was
Yep.
so excited about Paul Mitchell. I never had to try to sell it. It just sold itself through me because I loved it and believed in it so much. So if
Yeah.
you can take that energy and believe in yourself and your products that much,
Yep.
you'll be unstoppable. But I'm
Love
still
it.
trying to figure out how to do that, right?
Yes.
It's one
I
thing when it's another brand. It is,
yes.
and I think especially for women, it's hard to be like, can I curse on here?
Yes.
Oh,
Hello.
like I'm fucking
Yes.
awesome, right?
Yes.
But it's like, let's all get up in the morning and look in the mirror and be like, yes, I am fucking awesome,
Yes.
right? Like, yeah, and start believing that.
Exactly. I think this is perfect advice. So thank you for giving this because I agree. And I do think that women have this complex of like, because we're building personal brands, we're literally raving about ourselves and what we've created. And women are typically not wired to be like self-centered, right? Or we're told like,
Not
oh,
even not wired. We're just crucified when we
yes,
do that. The women who do this, we are crucified. And
yes.
like I say enough, like show up in your awesome power and like let's all just love on each other.
Exactly. I have talked so much about like being crucified by family members about saying I'm the breadwinner or like announcing it, let alone having a brand around it. But yeah, women are totally like, why are you wearing that? Why do you have makeup on? Why do you need an expensive bag? Why are you whatever? It's like, no, like please do it more. Like piss
Yeah. Yeah.
people off more.
You don't I would say like, you never know who's following you.
Yeah.
It always blows my mind. Like, I never think I'm a big deal, but then I have like people reach out and be like, "Oh my gosh, you've inspired me so much. I went to design school," or "Oh my gosh, you inspired me to start a business." And I'm just like, you you don't know who is watching your every move and looking to you for inspiration. But just think about it. We all have those women influencers that we follow. You
Yeah.
are that person to somebody who's just a few steps behind you. So show up for her.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that for women, because we're givers and nurturers, use that as your leverage for making impact. It's like you're showing up to show people what is possible for them. Like you are that woman, right? Like
Yeah.
Life Coach School is a perfect example of that. There's so many incredible women there, and there's thousands of LCS women, but in LCS itself, it's we both, I'm sure, look up to certain women that are in LCS. They look up to other women. Like it's just this circle of other women proving what is possible when you do the work.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah.
Okay, you have a podcast.
I
You
do.
have a free mini course for all of the listeners. Tell
I
us,
do.
where can people find you? I'll put everything in the show notes, but tell people like about all the things.
Yeah, so I decided this last year that I'm gonna make $1 million. I just turned 40. I decided I'm gonna make $1 million in my 40th year. And so that is a 10x jump for me. And so I decided to make a podcast, and it's called Super Bloom Coach, and it's documenting my journey to 10x and what it means to 10x in your business, in your life, not just the numbers, but like what that experience is like. So yeah, that's Super Bloom Coach. And then I have a free course called 5-Figure Clients, and it's specifically for life coaches. It's about how I took my business from, making nothing to getting booked out with 5-figure clients. So that is a 4-part course, and it's free.
Yay! Everything is linked below. You can find our Instagram, listen to her podcast, grab the free course. And thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you. This was awesome.
Yes, it was so good. And to all of our listeners, thank you so much. We will chat with you on the next episode.